Welcome to episode 22 of the Lamb Partners podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and I only have Dave with me this week.
Hello.
Matt's still out. He'll be back next week, though. Don't worry. So this week we got a pretty action-packed episode for the both of us. We are going to, of course, give you a Madden update. It's starting to dwindle down into the playoffs, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Dave's going to run down the free games for the month on PS Plus and Xbox One, and it is a good one this month. Stay tuned for that. We're going to do a review on Madden 18. Because of this Madden League, obviously, we have to get a review in there. And our discussion today is going to be a little battle. We're going to do a comparison, a 3-4-3 versus Bungie. The studios that have created Halo throughout the years. We're going to compare them and see how they stack up against one another. A couple news stories. In our list for today, since we didn't have Matt, we kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. So bear with us. It's the top 3 games. So for Dave, it'll be the top 3 games I hate but Dave loves. And then for me, it'll be the top 3 game Dave hates, but I love. So it's kind of different for each one of us. So it's the other one that they hate, but then the other one likes. So who we are is just we are 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies who love to game. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. Please download the podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Wednesday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or leave a comment. Check out our Land Partner Twitch page if you want to get our latest gameplay videos of games that we review. We have been posting quite a few videos up there. So let's go ahead and jump into the Madden update first of all. We got a real short one. We played a couple games since last episode. I am still your leader of the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, sitting at 11-2. Top dog. Dave, what is your record?
I'm currently at 9-3, and the Texans, who I've been battling in a heated kind of duel here since the beginning of the season for first place in my division, just won a game recently, so he's 10-3. So he has one win over me, but I have not yet played this week. Also, notable mention, the Atlanta Falcons, controlled by the computer, are 10-2, so they're on Connor's heels there.
Uh-oh. It's in the NFC, though. I clinched the playoff spot. I'm in. I'm going to worry about week 1 of the playoffs, and then I'll worry about week 2. And then if I get to that point, I'll worry about my jersey choice and move on from there. So,
yeah, I mean, it's you got to start thinking ahead now because that Super Bowl jersey is, it's going to be an important decision for you, Connor. So you got to make sure you get the right choice.
It's a big decision. I'll have to do a vote for everyone so everyone's happy. Let's get into our free games, and then I didn't mention this in the agenda for the beginning of the episode, but I will also, since this is the first episode of the month, it's Retro Review Day. I will be retro reviewing the NES Classic. Here's my original plan for the retro review before we get into the free games, Dave. My original plan was Star Fox for Super Nintendo. So a couple weekends ago, I went into my crawl space, I busted out all my old gaming systems, my Super Nintendo, my Sega, my Nintendo 64, got my Super Nintendo all hooked up. I tried Star Fox. The main menus were all working out. Everything was fine, but the gameplay was the game did not work for whatever reason. And then I tried Donkey Kong Country, played that for a little bit. Got past the first world, and then I went into a barrel with Donkey Kong, and I got shot out of the barrel, but I never came back down, and I tried it many, many times, but it wasn't working. So I just think I just need one of those air sprayers and just clear out all the dust. Remember back in the day when you had to blow into the cartridges to make them work? I think I just need a really good one to get all that dust out, and then my Super Nintendo will be working. So I will be reviewing the NES Classic as a whole. So let's go ahead and jump into the free games. Dave, take us away.
All right, so the free games this month are actually pretty interesting. For PlayStation, on that side of things, you've got this game I've never heard of called Amnesia Collection. That sounds okay. You've got a game called Hue. That's an indie game. You've got Skyforce Anniversary. For PlayStation 3, you've got Hustle Kings, Monster Jam Battlegrounds.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, right. Skyforce Anniversary again, but the PS3 version. And for Vita, you've got Hue and Skyforce Anniversary. And oh, that's right. You also get Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain for PlayStation 4, which, by the way, is the best free game ever offered so far on PlayStation and Xbox alike. I still give my hats off to Xbox for the better, I like to call them leased games, because you don't get to keep them if you unsubscribe to their programs. But I think that Xbox has the stronger lineup of free games over its lifespan, but this is definitely the best individual game ever released, and that's on PlayStation. So
I would have
Sony.
to agree with you strongly on that one. That is by far the best.
Yeah, and by no means does this make up for Sony making horrible PR decisions recently, but it's a start. It's a start for the apologies. So Metal Gear 5, pick it up for sure if you have a PS4. For Xbox, you've got Gone Home, which is the only real notable, I think, Xbox game that is being released for lease, I would say, for free. And that game is pretty cool if you haven't played it or you haven't heard about it. It's a game where you play as this girl, this female protagonist who is in first-person view. You never really hear her speak or anything, but she comes home from this overseas trip to find that her house where her parents and sister were living in has been abandoned. And all that's left is a note imploring her not to try to figure out what happened and just to let it be. And so obviously you go ahead and you try to figure out what happened. So it's a really cool game. I actually played this game and beat it when it was a free-to-play game on PlayStation 4 back when I had a PS4. So I would recommend checking it out. The Turing Test is another game on Xbox One. Oxenfree, which has been available since September, is Xbox One. Rayman 3 HD is an Xbox 360 game that's backwards compatible. You can get on Xbox One or obviously on 360. And then the other 360 game starting mid-October is Medal of Honor Airborne, which has potential to, just to check it out, because Medal of Honor used to be top dog of first-person shooters at one point.
Yeah,
and just been a far cry now since then. So that's it. Those are free games. Yeah.
Fun fact about Gone Home: it is by the makers of the Fulbright is the maker, but more importantly, a couple people on that staff worked on BioShock 2, and I've never played Gone Home, but from what I've seen of it, it kind of does have like a BioShock-y look to it, so it kind of shows. So wanted to throw that out there in case there's some BioShock fans. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the retro review, first episode of the month. So we do feature some sort of retro review, whether it be a Nintendo 64 game, Super Nintendo, anything older than that. But this time I'm going to be doing the NES Classic, since it is all old games. Developed by Nintendo, obviously. Came out last November, and we'll kind of foreshadow the SNES Classic launch that just happened and talk a little bit about the NES Classic launch, which was last November. I didn't get mine until Dave gave it to me the day of your baby shower, which had to be, April or March or something like that?
Yeah, it was not an easy item to get a hold of, that's for sure.
When was your baby born? Late March, so it wasn't April. So I got it in February-ish. So I've had it for quite some time. So the NES Classic comes with 30 games pre-installed, and there's some good ones in there. It's not just a bunch of garbage, but there is some good ones, like Mario, like all the Mario games, Super Mario 1, 2, 3, Mario Bros, Donkey Kong, which is like the game of arcades, Miyamoto's first real game, his one big accomplishment right out the gate. So that's a good one to have and go back and play. Legend of Zelda, which we all actually reviewed here on the Land Partners podcast. Dave did a review of that, and I played through about half of it, but got kind of stuck on a circular area. Final Fantasy is on there, Castlevania, Mega Man, and Punch-Out!, and there's so much more. I just actually, the last couple of days, I've been playing Metroid on my NES Classic because I was just kind of going through the menus and kind of messing around before I did this review, and I'm like, I haven't even tried out Metroid. I've tried out every single game besides Metroid and a few other ones. I'm like, why haven't I played Metroid? So I tried it out, and I'm actually really into it. I'm gonna fully play that as long as I'm into it, because it's actually really good so far, at least. So that's just, Dave made the joke before about the NES Classic. And Dave, do you want to tell our listeners you're joking? I'm sure you've made it before here on the podcast, but it's just refresh our memory.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge supporter of the classic consoles. I am a much bigger supporter of releasing downloadable games on current hardware so that you can kind of update the game and stuff. So I compared buying an NES Classic to do you want me to share the USB stick or do you want me to share the VCR?
VCR.
Okay, so I said buying an NES Classic is the equivalent to buying a VCR Classic where you buy a little replica VCR that you cannot actually play VHS tapes in, and it comes preloaded with like four good movies like from the 80s, like The Breakfast Club and
Back to the Future,
and then just a whole mess of games or movies that you never would have watched in your entire life, but just to make it seem like a better value, they throw them on there. So that was my
and you made this comparison so long ago, and then I started reading articles months later making that exact comparison. It's like they knew that you said that. It's just so spot on. Well,
yeah, it was really funny. I remember that.
He's right, though. I mean, there are I'd say in this NES Classic, there's probably 5 really good, worth playing games that every gamer must play. And then there's like 10, like you could play it, but you could get away with not playing it. And then the rest of them are just 15 more games of just I'll hit the menu and then I'll go into it. I'm like, nope, and then just move out, So there are those games.
Well, it was interesting too because like when that one came out, I don't remember reading any articles that sorted the games by, oh my gosh, I'm going to for sure play this, and holy cow, why would they even include this? I've never even heard of that game. I don't remember reading any lists that people published, but like with the SNES Classic, I think that the majesty of owning a classic console is starting to fade, especially because they announced that there's going to be more NESs in the wild, because I read an article about the SNES Classic that sorted the games by games you should definitely play, and then all the way down to games you should not even waste your time on.
Which can't be many, because the SNES Classic library is really good.
It's a library, that's for sure.
It's got really good games on there. It's definitely.
There's a few that are really, really nice. Yeah, there's a couple on there. I don't know about $60 worth of really nice, but it's or $80. I mean,
I was gonna say it's not $60 worth. It's $80.
Definitely not $80 worth of really nice. But I mean, if that floats your boat, then
we'll talk about the launch in our news segment. So cons with the NES Classic, though, the controller length is extremely short, and I'm not joking when I say it's short, but the thing that I don't understand is you kind of have to keep the cord short, because in order to create a save spot, you have to hit the reset button on the NES, which you could only do on the console, so you have to be sitting right next to it, at least in arm's length, so you could poke the reset button and then pull up a save spot and create a new save slot. So, that kind of, I think maybe that's why they did the short cord. I don't know. Maybe they figured people will be sitting 2 feet away from the TV anyway, because they have to poke the reset button. So that was a con. Another huge con for me for the NES Classic is that the reset button is on the console. I know they're trying to keep it completely nostalgic and completely accurate of what the NES was like in the 80s by keeping the controller. I would not complain at all if there was just an extra button on that controller where I could pull up the menu to create all those saves. I would not complain at all. I think anyone who would complain is an idiot. Because why would you complain that you don't have to play 2 feet away from the TV? Just put the button on there. I don't care.
But my controller's not nostalgic and spot on anymore. Well, yeah, it's also 1 foot long, which is not how the original controllers were either. So
and the
get over it.
The console's 1/4 the size, so it's not like nostalgia's completely there anyway. So yeah. I think I would be completely supportive of just an extra button on that somewhere, like a home button like the Xbox has, something like that, just kind of so I don't have to sit right next to the TV. My last con for the NES Classic is, like we were saying, most games don't really hold up to play longer than a couple minutes or an hour. But there are some ones that, like Zelda, I played all the way through. Not all the way through, but Star Tropics, I played all the way through. All the Mario games are obviously awesome. Metroid, I'm really digging. There's a couple else on there that I got really into that I played more than just, Contra's fun, Gladius, all those kind of just shooting games where you're just trying to beat a high score. Those are a lot of fun and don't really get old. My overall is an 8 out of 10. I do think it's a great piece of history. The SNES Classic, I can't wait to get my hands on. And again, we'll talk about that in our news segment. But yeah, the NES Classic, it's a solid 8. Not really a whole lot to complain about. It can't really complain about 30 games being in one spot, and the price tag was only $60, so it was a good buy. And so let's move on to our Madden 18 review. So we've been playing Madden 18 a lot with our online league. I've played a couple offline games just at the beginning just to kind of get a feel for the game more, so I didn't keep losing in our online league. But a little bit about Madden is that it was developed by EA. It's a yearly release game, nothing new there. Came out this August. Nothing really else to say about that. So Dave, how about you tell us a couple things that you like about Madden?
Sure. Well, a couple things I really like about this Madden, and I'm going to do it like as opposed to other Maddens. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you've played Madden before if you're interested in Madden 18. Maybe not, but I'm going to assume that you have. So the defensive artificial intelligence is actually a lot better in this Madden. I noticed that with the inclusion of a couple of the different zone defense changes from 17 and then the tweaks that they did for 18, Connor and I, you and I have talked about this. Passing the ball is a lot more challenging to me, for me at least, in this game. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to Madden 16 because I played that one so much. But the defenders are very, very good at zone coverage in this game, and there are a couple different zones that are different that were not available in 16, where the defender, the corner, or the linebacker will actually follow the receiver a little bit before letting them go out of their zone, which if you are someone who likes to just snap the ball and throw it immediately like me, it could trick you into thinking that they are in man coverage, and you find out it's a zone when the ball goes sailing at a guy who's just waiting there for your pass. So I've had to actually change the way I play Madden a little bit, because my defensive reads are not quite as sharp as they used to be. So I think that's a plus. I think that having that defensive AI is a plus. What's one thing you like about it?
I would completely agree with you that the AI defensively has just stepped up so much more. It is way harder to just pick apart the defense like it was in past ones. I remember Madden, the one we played together, Madden 16, but the one even last one I owned before that, I would get like almost 6,000 yards a season with, Jay Cutler, just because I learned the defense so well that I knew exactly, all right, they're in this formation right now. As soon as I hike it, if this guy pulls up and comes to the line, they're playing zone. I could just wait 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds for that guy to get open. Boom, wide open window, 20 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards, and just keep doing that in different formations. And it was way easier to read, but they have improved that tremendously to the point, like you were saying, you can't tell what they're doing at the line anymore, and you can't even tell what they're doing within the first second of the play, because it used to be like the way they line up. So if the linebacker's lining up on your tight end, they used to kind of line up off to the side, and if they did that, that means that they were playing zone, so you'd have a wide open fly route, 10, 15 yards down the field. But now if they line up off to the side, you still don't know if they're playing man or zone. So like Dave was saying, you think it's zone, but it's man, or the other way around, and it's a pick. And I've thrown a lot of picks, just almost muscle memory, thinking that this is a zone coverage. I got this all day with a fly route. I got 20 yards coming up. Nope, pick. So, and that's good. I want to throw picks, so I'm not just, walking downfield every single time. So that's good. Another thing that I like is I haven't found any money plays, and I haven't been the victim of money plays yet. And money plays, for those of you who don't know, are plays that are as good as money. They don't miss. They're guaranteed. Okay, it's 3rd and 15. Let me pull out my money play. First down. I have not found one of those. I found formations that work really well for me, but that's not necessarily a money play. It's just a formation that I hot route left and right and, move things around. And I haven't played a person yet where I've been a victim of the money plays, where I'm just sitting there saying, like, this is physically impossible to stop this. Like, this isn't even fun right now. So, Dave, what do you think?
I think that you're just a little bit lucky, because in this Madden, I have, just out of curiosity, check to see if money plays do exist. And I don't know if they do for sure because I haven't actually studied them like I used to in 16. There are videos that claim to have money plays in 18, but I don't think any of us in this league this year really care to have them. I think we just like having the competition a little bit better than being able to blow people out by 40, which I may have been able to do in 16. So I think that it's that defensive AI makes it feel a lot better. And if you're not researching money plays or facing random people online who all they play is Madden and research money plays, you're going to have a much better experience overall, like Connor said in this one, feeling like it's a more authentic NFL experience because of the defensive AI. I like that it's in the Frostbite engine, which I really wish NBA Live would have been in the Frostbite engine as well because it does awesome things with lighting. The lighting effects are crazy in this game. The graphics did get an upgrade. It's not quite as noticeable as I think some like gaming magazines have been paid to say by EA. It's not quite as noticeable as some articles make it seem, but you can definitely tell that the graphics are better than Madden 17. And I don't know if it's a result of the Frostbite engine or what, but I also feel like even though it wasn't one of the highlights this year, Madden always comes out before the new game comes out and talks about the new features that people need to look out for. I don't remember them saying that player motion was something that you should look out for, but maybe because it got shifted to the Frostbite engine, for some reason, the motion of the players feels more authentic to me. I feel like their feet are planting more realistically in this game than in previous games, including 17. I feel like the spin moves are no longer an automatic extra 5 or 10 yards. You have to actually use it in intelligent situations and not just when you see a guy running at you. I like that they made the juke moves more pronounced for some players. Before, if you used a juke, you pretty much got tackled immediately. And now, if you have a player who has a high agility rating and has high ball carrier moves, he can do a juke and just absolutely rattle a guy in front of him. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, I learned the spin move the hard way. I got so just like I said before, muscle memory with the spin move that I'm still trying to use it and it won't work. And
you expect the guy to like go right past you like in Madden 16, and then you just get clobbered.
I know, every single time I'm like, it's not working yet. It's still not working. So let's just quickly go through our cons. Before we get into that, Madden did get a new feature this year, which is the long shot mode, which is basically a football telltale game. There's not anything wrong with that. Adding that, I have no problem with them adding it. So I'm not. That's not necessarily like it's not very good. So I don't like how they add it. I mean, it's a new mode. I can't complain about that. I did play it for about 30, 45 minutes. Haven't gotten into it really. I played. I'm like, this is okay. I'll come back to that though, and I'll have a separate review for the long shot mode because I do want to play through it and see what it's all about. But just be aware that there is a new feature it's from like the FIFA series and now they're taking it into the Madden series. So let's go ahead and I'll give a couple cons and then you can give a couple cons and we'll just go right into our overalls from there. Kicking took a step back. I thought that kicking's harder now, and I missed 2 extra points in my game yesterday, so that's proof that it is a little bit harder. But there was nothing wrong with the kicking system in the old one, so that's why I don't see why they changed it because I didn't see any issues with that.
I think it's worth noting, too, that Connor skipped Madden 17, so when he's saying it's different from the old games, he's saying the last Madden he played was 16, which still had amazing kicking. 17 and 18 have the same kicking, which just 18 is a little more refined, but still ridiculously unnecessarily hard.
I just like the old, like it just the
thumbstick one.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know why they have to tinker with things that aren't even wrong, like if it's broke. If it's not broke, don't fix it, Like,
I mean, that kind of made my list, not because it changed from last year, but because it's still the same as last year, and that was a con last year in Madden. In addition to that, I also put the AI, even though better on defense, will still do crazy, ridiculous things. Like if you audible a play, they'll know exactly what you audible to. And if you audible to a run, they'll bring 8 guys in the box randomly, like they knew exactly what you were doing, even though nobody on your team moves. There's no way they could have been able to tell. If you were playing a human player, they would have had no idea. They would have just been guessing. And then my other big one, which I'm sure is on your list, so I'm just going to beat you to it, is that although injuries are realistic in the real NFL, sometimes they can get a little crazy in these games. I understand that in some NFL games, asterisks, some NFL games, a lot of players can get hurt and have gotten hurt in one game, but it doesn't happen every single game, which I feel like, for example, Frank Gore, Connor injured when we played each other in week 3 or something?
4-ish, yeah.
4. He was out for 5 weeks, came back, and the game he came back, he got knocked out for another 6 weeks. So, I mean, I don't know. And along with 6 other guys, so.
Yeah, the injuries are out of control, and it needs to be scaled down just a little bit. And like you said, I understand it's football, it's a contact sport, but it's got to be scaled down a little bit. We're only playing 6-minute quarters. It should not be happening like the rate that it would in a 15-minute quarter. So how about I'll just give my overall real quick. My overall, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a great Madden game. I don't have any really complaints with it. Everything's really solid. I like the passing. I like the running. The defense is smarter. I'm not just plowing down computers anymore. And so it's a great Madden game. What about you?
I give this one a 9 out of 10 because it's the best Madden game that I've played. And if the kicking were adjusted back to the old 16 kicking and some of the injury stuff, or I don't know, like these tiny little Madden things, I guess would make the game not Madden anymore. But some of these little things, I think, would have made it a 10 because it's actually a really, really, really good game. Probably the best sports game available right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so Madden 18, definitely check it out. It's both of us have high praises for it. I don't have any major complaints. It's really great. I have a lot of fun. Can't wait to get into the playoffs of our online Madden League. Let's jump into our discussion, the battle between 343 and Bungie. Hold on, I got something special for you today, Dave. Oh, wait, it didn't work.
I'm hoping it's...
No. Here we go. All right.
Oh, nice. I like
Finally
that.
worked. So a battle between 343 and Bungie. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give us a brief history on Bungie. Created in Bellevue, Washington, 1991. So this is just a gaming company. They had a big game called Marathon. You might remember it. You might not. But that basically put them on the map at the time. But then the game called Myth really brought them the success and really brought them all the attention of, being Bungie. That's Myth really is. Marathon put them on the map. Myth brought them the success. So a couple just highlights from them. Halo 1, they were the creators of Halo 1. That sold 6.5 million copies. And then Halo 2 in 2004 sold 125 million copies on release day. That's not right. I missed the decimal.
on release day.
And then Halo 3, 170 mil on release date. So, and then a couple other things. On October 5th, 2007, they split from Microsoft, but Microsoft retained Halo, the IP of Halo. So then that kind of leads us into 343. But before we get into 343, Bungie also signed a 10-year deal with Activision, a publishing deal. That's how then they got in 2014 Destiny, and then now most recently Destiny 2. But after the breakup with Microsoft in 2007, right after the breakup, I think ODST was about to be announced, and then they broke up from Microsoft, and then ODST came out, and it showed that they were kind of in a turmoil, because I think ODST was easily the worst Halo game ever made.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
I don't know who would disagree. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
ODST was garbage, so it kind of showed that they were in the middle of some stuff with Microsoft when they were making that game. But then Halo Reach also came out post-breakup, and that game was a little bit better, the multiplayer at least. So that's a little bit about Bungie. Dave, tell us a little bit about 343, the company who took over the Halo IP.
Yeah, not only did they take over, but out of necessity, Microsoft had to put together a team to take over because Halo, as we all know, is the storied franchise of Microsoft. It's a flag bearer franchise. It's one of the exclusives. It is actually the exclusive in most cases why you would want to own an Xbox or an Xbox One. So when Bungie parted ways, they actually bought all the shares of their company back from Microsoft in that 2007 debacle, and took the ownership of the company back, and like you said, went and made some deals with Activision. 343 is named after 343 Guilty Spark, which is a character in the Halo series. And so the company, from its conception, is basically to take over Halo. It's completely owned by Microsoft. It formed in 2007. They've developed games like Halo 4 was their first big flagship Halo game, and then obviously Halo 5 afterwards. But under the radar, I guess for some people maybe not, they also were responsible for the remastering or development of games like Halo Master Chief Collection and Halo Wars 2. So the team basically, what makes 343 interesting is their director is actually an ex-Bungie employee. There are people from Bungie who stayed on board who just had such a deep connection with either the Halo franchise and wanted to continue working on it, or they were just paid a whole mess of money by Microsoft to stay on and consult and lead the program. So 343 is notable for making big changes to the formula that made Halo 1, 2, and 3 very successful. In Halo 4, they just absolutely added a bunch of features and a bunch of different changes to the way that multiplayer is played. And then Halo 5 kind of bringing that back to what made 1, 2, and 3 so successful in terms of multiplayer. The campaigns have been great for 4 and 5. Definitely better, in my opinion, campaign-wise than 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 5 are leaps and bounds better campaign-wise, my opinion. The Reclaimer arc is a lot better than whatever Bungie wanted to call that mess of 1, 2, and 3 that was horrible. So the reception has been pretty shaken, and thus Connor's bell at the beginning of this, because the community is definitely segmented. Halo fans are either really, really still claiming Bungie's the best. They're never going to do anything to top Halos 1, 2, and 3. And then there's people who are completely behind 343 and say, 4 and 5 are so much better. They've made so many more advancements. Bungie was not willing to take those risks, and 343 did, etc. So you got these two segments of the same community who are just at war, and Halo 6 is going to look interesting because 343 really does care about the complaints that the purists from Halo 1, 2, and 3 have, and so I have a feeling they're going to release like a classic mode or something that will make it more like the original Halos, but we'll have to see.
So right at the top of this discussion, I said 125 mil on release day. That was dollars, $125 million on release day. Then Halo 3 sold $170 million. Dollars. I didn't want it to be thinking units. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's not 170 million units. No way. But it was dollars. I just forgot to say dollars. And you hit on a lot there with 343 and Bungie. But here's where I stand on it. I love all Halo games besides Halo 3. But Halo 1 obviously is Halo 1. Like, enough said on that. Halo 2, really, like, the multiplayer is on point. It's got all these classic modes, all these classic maps. Everything feels right. And then Halo 3, it takes a major step back, in my opinion. But there was such a long gap between Halo 3 and Halo 4 that I remember just spending so much time on Halo 3 because you had to. Like, you had no other choice. There was nothing else out there for Halo. So you kind of had to play Halo 3. But then Halo 4 came in. And I know you already were talking about this, but Halo 4 was a complete 180 from any other Halo. And I think that was good for the company. It kind of got people paying attention again to Halo, take a little bit serious. And then Halo 5 came out, and in my opinion, Halo 5 is the best Halo multiplayer that's become available. So it's hard for me to say that 343 is the better one when, Bungie set the foundation for everything and put everything in place, but Halo 5 is really good. So that kind of
Yeah.
leads us to. So Dave, before we talk a little bit about Destiny, let's just compare Halo to Halos. If you're gonna hire one of these two companies right now to make you a Halo game and tell them make it however you want. If you hire Bungie, they can make it exactly like Halo 2, but give it all the new bells and whistles. If you hire 343, they'll give you a Halo 4 or a Halo 5, whatever you want. Which company are you hiring?
Well, here's the thing. Bungie does Bungie no matter what. If you have feedback for them, I truly believe they do not care. They're going to just make the game they want to make, and they're going to make it, and the sequels are going to be just like the originals. And you can see it happening already with Destiny, where Destiny 2 is actually incredibly similar to Destiny 1, and they had no choice. Their hands were tied that they had to deliver on a better campaign for Destiny 2 because they probably had people breathing down their necks saying, hey, this was an outcry. You absolutely cannot ignore this. But did anything in Crucible change? No. Did anything loot-wise change? Not really. Some people would argue for the worse. So, Bungie's just going to do whatever they want. I would hire 343 to head my game because I trust them. I trust that they're going to listen to the community. Look at the differences between Halo 4 and Halo 5. I did not see any of those types of differences happening between Halos 1, 2, and 3. You and I joked about how I said that really those first three games should be called Halo, Halo 2, and Halo 2.5 because they were so set in their formula of what made Halo 2 popular that they did not want to take any risks. And Halo 3 shows that they did not want to take any risks except make it look a little bit prettier. So,
and I don't know if you remember this, but when Halo ODST came out, what was the multiplayer on ODST?
Was it Halo 3's multiplayer?
It was Halo 3's multiplayer.
Oh my gosh.
It literally was Halo 3. I picked up ODST. I didn't buy it. I borrowed it from my brother, I remember. He brought it over one time around Christmas, and I'm like, oh, ODST, I finally get to try this game out, see what the new multiplayer maps are like. So it loads in, Halo 3 pops up, and it's got my profile from Halo 3 and everything. I'm like, what is this? Why am I... I played one match to see if it was any different. I'm like, this is literally Halo 3. I'm like, enough of this. ODST is garbage. So
ODST was like Halo 3.25.
Yeah. So now that we kind of established the Halo, tell us a little bit about Bungie's Destiny direction.
So yeah, as you guys know, Matt and I had talked about prior to him leaving that we both had picked up Destiny 2. I had Destiny 1, but didn't play it as much as Connor. And dude, man, it's the same old Bungie that we remember from Halo 1, 2, and 3. And either you love them or you hate them, but they are not going to change Destiny. It's done. If you wanted a brand new Destiny game that was brand new and had all these really cool new features and whatever, guys, that's not Bungie. When Halo 3 comes out, you're going to get Destiny 2 reskinned and revamped. That is who Bungie is. They don't take risks. They don't mess with the money that they're making. If something's working, they're definitely not going to change it, even in the slightest. That's just who they are, which is a compliment to them, as well as my biggest complaint, which is why I like companies that take risks and why I would take 343 over them to make a new Halo game. So I'm glad they do have the license. But, I mean, Bungie, they just don't take risks. And I love Destiny 2. I think it's a great game. But even I have a hard time sometimes distinguishing, what is it exactly that makes this game even better than Destiny 1? Because they're pretty much the same exact game. The story mode is what you notice. That's where they put the love and time into, and it definitely paid off. I think that's primarily why I enjoy the second game more, is because when I do co-op with my friends, I'm not just grinding out gear. I actually play through the campaign with a couple of them, so that was pretty neat. And I think that was a much needed change from Destiny 1, where I could not tell you what the story even was. And most of it was in collectible cards or something cheesy. So I mean, it's Bungie, man. They don't change. They do what they want to do, and they just do it. They don't listen to community feedback unless it is a revolutionary outcry.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Destiny for me is the way it feels, the way the guns shoot, everything moves. It feels so good, just as good as a Halo 2. And for me, if they gave me the Destiny feel but like a Halo skin, like this would be the greatest game ever. Like this would be amazing, but they don't. They give us this. Everyone has these little heroes, and it's super unbalanced and it's annoying. But as far as the feel goes, like it feels like Halo and it feels great. But the Destiny part of it is where they kind of lose me at times. So here's the big question, the final question I'll give you, then we'll wrap up this discussion and move on to our news story. But here's my question. If you are hiring Bungie or 343 to give you a first-person shooter game, which company are you hiring now? So before it was Halo and you picked 343. Now you're just looking for a first-person shooter game. Who are you hiring?
Are we talking like a completely new IP? Like I'm trusting them to create something brand new?
You're creating a new IP and they can make it however they want or however you want, but you want one of them.
I'm about to throw some hate at both companies real quick. The monetization of microtransactions has become a thing for both of them, which I hate. Truly, I would pick neither company. I would have Valve create my new first-person shooter game because Counter-Strike is the definitive first-person shooter experience. I'm sorry, but I pick Valve 100 out of 100 times. If I had to choose between these two companies that are heading towards pay to win and all this junk with stuff,
before you give your answer, you love Destiny, so that's Bungie.
I do love Destiny too.
But you love Halo 4 and 5, and that's 343. Who are you picking? Who are you gonna pick?
I'm gonna. You know what? I would pick Valve to make a new first-person shooter game, but
Valve is not an option.
Okay, but get this. I would have 343 make the multiplayer component of the game because they actually listen to community feedback, and that's the important part of multiplayer. But for campaign, obviously Bungie, I think, has better ideas for, storylines in general, and, their attitude of we don't care what anybody else thinks actually benefits them in campaigns because it allows them to create exactly the game they want without any interruption. So can I pick campaign? I would have Bungie do, and then the multiplayer I would let 343 handle. Can I do that?
That's fine. At least you're not throwing in Valve or someone else.
I would completely pick Valve. Don't buy any of the other games.
So that was the Halo developing companies.
Who'd you pick?
I would pick. I haven't played a Halo campaign probably since I played 4, but that was the most painful process. I picked 343. I'll go 343. Campaign is not really important to me as far as Halo's or Destiny because Destiny 1 didn't have a campaign, so I'd go 343.
And Destiny PvP is a hilarious joke.
It's extremely unbalanced, but like we said, everything feels good. Just the unbalanced issue is just. I'm not buying that game until someone tells me that they've created a mode where you could play without the heroes and then without the power-ups, and then I'll pick it up. That's where I stand on Destiny right now. So switching gears to our news story for the day, the big one, SNES Classic launched last Friday. I know one person, Jake. He is the only person I know who picked up a SNES Classic, and good for him. I called around to a lot of different places on my lunch break. I probably called 10 to 15 places, and I asked them, do you have it in stock? And they said no. And I said, how many units did you guys get? And then every Target I called said about 50, and then every GameStop I called said about 10. One GameStop did say that they got shorted, so they were expecting another shipment. Like, they got shorted, so then they had 5, but they were expecting 10, so they were expecting another 5 to come in at some point. And they're like, do you want me to tell you when they come in? Like, yeah. Please tell me when they come in because there won't be a line out the door by the time I get there.
Yeah. Plus, they don't call. They put you on a list to make you feel nice, and then maybe someone else's GameStop is better, but I've never had a GameStop call me up and be like, this just became available. I've actually had the opposite where I call them and they tell me, oh no, we don't take pre-orders, and then I walk into the store 5 minutes later and they're like, would you like to pre-order an Xbox One X? I'm like, yeah, that's. Thanks. I literally just talked to you 5 minutes ago. Thanks. So
last week we kind of gave our predictions of what we thought the NES Classic were launch, and I'd say we were pretty accurate. They're not sitting on shelves afterwards, after the huge rush, but they did impress me a little bit. 50 to Target stores, and I talked to one of my friends, and he said that one Target by him had 200 units they got. So it's good. Targets are at least getting it. But I did hear Best Buy really got the short end of the stick. They got not a whole lot. I didn't call any Best Buys, but I've read a lot of articles saying Best Buy really was shorted, but Target was given a lot, so maybe it kind of offset itself. Maybe we didn't really get a whole lot more of NES classics than the NES. Maybe they're kind of tricking us, like, hey, look how many Target had, because GameStop's only had 10 per store, which I don't think is any more than the NES had. So Nintendo impressed me with the Targets. I want to see the numbers, though, of how many were actually released, and then we'll kind of compare. But as of right now, the launch went pretty much as how I expected it to go. Everything was sold out before I even woke up in the morning because everyone was waiting in line at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
we called it.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I expected, but some people were able to get their hands on it, and hopefully Dave can find me one in the near future, and then I will be happy.
I'm lucky, man. I just walk into places and I see things.
I hope you find
especially with Nintendo. Yeah, I found a Nintendo Wii when that was impossible to find. I just literally walked into a Target, actually, and saw one sitting on the shelf. It happened with NES Classic. I was the first person out of all three of us to see Nintendo Switches out in the wild before those became more common. So don't worry, man. I got you. I'll just walk in somewhere. It'll be there.
I hope. That would be awesome. I really want one. All right, so that was our news. There wasn't really anything else going on besides the SNES Classic launch. I really wanted to just make sure we hit on that. So let's move on to our list for today. So this is our last episode without Matt, so we wanted to have a little fun. So our list again is, for me, it's the top 3 games Dave hates, but I love. And then for him, it's the top 3 games I hate, but Dave loves. So I'll start us off. I have an honorable mention of my number.
I hate so many games I get an honorable mention.
I couldn't fit it all. I couldn't fit it into 3. So I have to do an honorable mention. My number 4 honorable mention is L.A. Noire. You hate this game so much, and you're probably surprised that how is this not on my top 3?
How did that not make the list? Number 1 should have been L.A. Noire. It is the worst game, period, that Rockstar's ever made, and one of the worst games ever made. It makes my top 5 for worst games.
And
I don't know what you're doing here.
But you hate L.A. Noire. It's very, very good, and that's my honorable mention. I'll go ahead. Do you have an honorable mention or no? Because I'll jump right into my number 3.
To be honest, you are a very worldly game player, Connor. I had a hard time finding games that I loved and you hate, because hate's a strong word, and you're a pretty worldly fellow. So I do not have an honorable mention.
Let me just jump right to my number 3, because my number 3 and my honorable mention is very interchangeable. It depends on what kind of mood.
I know exactly what it is.
It depends on what kind of mood you're in. My number 3 is BioShock. I've never seen someone try out that game and then hate it so quickly. And I understand, because you played it on PC, and I don't think the port was very good.
No, so the controller and mouse support on. And I've been told that on BioShock 2 and especially on Infinite, it's a lot better with mouse and keyboard. But how do you mess up a first-person shooter with mouse and keyboard? It really takes a really special company to mess up a first-person shooter on mouse and keyboard, but they did it. So hats off to them.
All right, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is actually an entire genre of games, so I guess I did have honorable mentions. The MOBA genre gets so much hate from you. I can't even. Similarly to how you've never met someone who's hated BioShock right away so bad, I've never just absolutely met someone who's just literally not even wanting to give like Dota 2, League of Legends, games like that a chance. It's almost like you had no interest in even giving the genre an opportunity when you first played them. So I think that's pretty funny, and that's my number 3.
I'm gonna wait till your list is over to see if there's another genre that kind of relates to that. I
might have hit it.
I usually just write off right away where I'm
You're
like,
not gonna be disappointed.
Boom,
Let's just keep going.
It's that kind of game. I'm moving on.
Yep.
All right, my number 2, no surprise, is the Grand Theft Auto series. You you hate everything about GTA. You don't even try to put a little. It's okay. No, you hate it. It's fine. You hate all things GTA.
It's really Rockstar. That company just needs to get their things in line, their ducks in order. I don't know. They make so many mediocre or bad games. I think
you hate the success of it. I think that's what you're.
But I don't though, because look at some of the fanboy thing. I like EA. Okay, if I had that stance that everybody loves it and they don't make high quality games, I should be on the I hate EA Sports bandwagon. But my 2 companies that I absolutely hate are Ubisoft, which is my number one, far beyond Rockstar, and then Rockstar. That's it. That's my top two and my only top two developers I cannot stand because they don't get it.
You have a lot of hate for GTA. There's no doubt about it. All right,
That's
what
true.
is your number two? I'm excited to hear this.
No surprise to anyone, Diablo 3 is my number two, Connor. And I wasn't sure because I never heard you talk about Diablo 2 or Diablo 1, so I didn't want to go ahead and generalize and throw that on there.
I never played Diablo 1 or 2, so.
Perfect. So Diablo in general, and that's just, that's my good friend Connor. He just, for some reason, is the only person I know that doesn't like Diablo, so.
I like it when I want to have an extremely boring experience. It's pretty good then.
It tops the charts when you don't want to have fun.
Yeah. It's really good at that. All right, my number one for Dave is the thing that I love but he hates.
Come on.
Is
what beat LA Noire? I want to know right now.
All first-party Sony games. Dave went as far as to trade in his PS4 because he hates the first-party lineup so much that he traded in an entire console just to spite them. So that is my number one, Sony's first-party game lineup.
Listen, you're not entirely wrong. I will say, though, you have to give me this. Last of Us 2 or Last of Us 1 is one of my top favorite games of all time. That is a Sony exclusive title. But for the most part, yes, I do not like God of War. I am completely uninterested with Nathan Drake. Go ahead. You can list the rest of them. Bloodborne did not impress me.
It's just pull up a list of Sony exclusives, and Dave hates probably 98% of them.
And then I like the ones that nobody likes. I like The Order. I thought that was a great game. I'm not even joking. I really did like that one. So,
all right, what is your number one game?
This is going to make you really happy because you were able to call this one. I picked an entire genre again, but I put a backbone to it. Connor, if you guys don't know, hates turn-based RPGs to the point where he absolutely has said some of the silliest things I've ever heard a man say in my life. Like, I have not played Final Fantasy VII and don't plan to. Like, that just blows my mind that you would not want to play an iconic game of video games. But my games that I listed were Connor, I had given him a gift of the original Pokemon games just so that he could get a taste of what a fantastic old school game feels and tastes like. And I gave him, what was it, Pokemon Blue?
It was Pokemon Blue, 1998 Pokemon Blue.
So Pokemon Blue he played, and this dude just hated it. And I said, Connor, how can you hate such a classic, beloved game by many? And he says, verbatim, and I quote, "Oh, it was kind of boring."
It was?
What? It was the 150 unique monsters who all evolved and battled one another in a rock, paper, scissors system. Was that not good enough for you? No, it was turn-based. He didn't like it.
It's true. You got me. I was thinking the other day about how a good list would be our top 3 turn-based games. Then I'm like, God, I've only played 3 turn-based games in my life, and I've hated like 2 of them.
I hated 2 of them. Chrono Trigger, my number one. I don't know.
I liked Persona though. Persona was turn-based, and I really liked it. But you're not wrong by saying that.
Was that what you were thinking of when you mentioned that? The entire genre that you hate?
I was thinking that you were going to say MMO, which goes along with
okay.
The first one you said. What was the first one?
I've never even heard you say MMO. My first one I said was the MOBA.
MOBA, yeah. I'm not a big fan of MMOs. Like, I remember if you go back in our E3 review, I was talking about a game, and there was a game that I really liked, and then right at the end it said like MMO, and I'm like,
oh yeah, that's right. You're like, Dave, this game looks amazing. It looks so cool. The story's probably going to be awesome, and I'm like, dude, it's an MMO. Like, it's going to be like World of Warcraft, and you're like, oh, that game sucks.
Exactly.
That game's stupid. Why would they make that game? I don't know.
I'm not a fan of MMOs. But, so that was our list for today. Maybe we'll have Matt give us a list when he gets back, see if there's some things that he loves but we all hate. It'd be interesting to see. So that was episode 22. We kind of packed a lot into this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell your friends about us, your gaming friends while you're playing PS4, Xbox One, talking. Drop the LAN partner's name. Tell them where you could find us, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Thank you for listening. Please post something on our YouTube. Tell us about games that you love and we've talked about, hate for them in the past. There hasn't been a whole lot, but there's been some games out there where we've said that it was not swing and a miss for the LAN partners. So please let us know. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.